Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. This is known as one of, if not the greatest amusement park in the world, and I'll explain why that statement is sort of true in this review. I'm going to cover everything this park does exceptionally well, and I'm also going to sort of tear it apart in a few spots, but there's definitely a lot more good things to say about Cedar Point than bad. So let's start with this location. This is definitely one of the best locations of any park in my opinion. Unfortunately, the only real downside to this location is the weather, and it being on a peninsula means, the high winds, all the rain's gonna come on in, and this has a pretty strict weather policy where even a little bit of rain can shut big rides down, which is really annoying. But other than that, this is just a star location for a park. You're just in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. Sandusky's definitely become a bigger town now that Cedar Point's sort of blown up and everyone knows about it. There's a lot more hotels, restaurants, there's other water parks. There's a bunch of stuff to do in Sandusky, but for the most part, Cedar Point's pretty much on its own. There's not really a whole lot, like only a few minutes away from it. So you'll see a McDonald's and other various just random fast food restaurants and hotels, and then you get onto the causeway, and this might just be the coolest way ever to get to an amusement park. You cross this bridge over Lake Erie, and you just see everything in the park skyline. It is definitely the coolest park skyline of all time. You've got Dragster, Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, just everything. You can see it. You can see all the coasters pretty much. Everything over 100 feet at least, which is the majority of the coasters here. You can see all the flat rides that are pretty tall, and you see the water in the background. It's just one of the coolest sights ever. I'm actually surprised there haven't been more accidents from people just sort of looking off and not really paying attention to where they're going. I'm surprised someone hasn't just driven into the road, because there's this little turn to the left when you sort of get closer to the park. And I'm surprised no one's just driven right into the lake before, but I guess that's good for them. So then you actually get into the parking tolls, and if you're a gold pass holder or higher, you'll get in for free, which is pretty cool. There's sort of two areas to go in. You either go into the normal parking lot area, or you can go down this other road that'll lead you to the left, and this will sort of lead you to everything else. It'll lead you to another entrance, the hotels, basically most of the stuff most people won't be doing. So we're going to go to the right like a normal person, and you're going to go through the parking tolls and park in your car in this absolutely massive lot. It's pretty organized, but definitely remember where you were because it's huge. And then once you actually get up to this front entrance, oh man, does it look amazing. This is my personal favorite front entrance to any park. I absolutely love how Gatekeeper looks. As much as it rides like a 6 out of 10 coaster, it's a 10 out of 10 in terms of appearance. I've always thought blue track, white supports, that was it. That was an incredible color scheme. There's a reason I think Hakuge looks like the best coaster in the world in terms of appearance, and Gatekeeper's right up there. It's just stunning watching it fly through the keyholes. You have to walk under it in between the keyholes to get into the park. It's got this grand sort of centerpiece saying Cedar Point in the middle of it. It's really cool. There is a little security checkpoint, but it's pretty small. I could imagine this could be a big bottleneck if you're coming in right at opening, but unfortunately I got there a few hours late, my past visit, so I didn't have any sort of issue getting through security, and I always just come with my phone and nothing else, so I just walked right through and got right in the park. And you're immediately greeted with a carousel. It's not the most grand entrance ever, but you already had that grand experience with Gatekeeper walking under it. So it's alright to have this little quaint feeling entrance here with a carousel. Now, this is the point where you really realize you are absolutely mobbed by roller coasters. It is absolutely an enthusiast's paradise. There's just few places on Earth that are as cool as here. You've just got coaster track on all sides of you. When you're walking down this main midway, you just look everywhere and see all these roller coasters. And there's a lot of quality coasters. There's a good amount that you're going to want to ride every time you go. Now, we're going to take a right here at the entrance and go into the newest area, the boardwalk. This is a pretty cool area of the park. I don't think it's the best or even the second best personally. I know a lot of people say this area looks fantastic, one of the best Cedar Fair slash Six Flags has ever done. I don't personally think it's that good. It looks nice, but I'm just personally not a big fan of the traditional Americana, rah-rah America vibe. Like, it's cool. It would be cool on 4th of July, but I don't really need it any other day of the year. But I will admit it looks nice. This was my first time seeing the Grand Pavilion, and it's definitely a cool looking restaurant. I do miss Wicked Twister in the Skyline. That was a really cool looking coaster, and also a pretty fun ride to ride, but nothing too special. But it just looked so cool in the Skyline, and the Grand Pavilion looks pretty cool too, so I definitely appreciate that. The Ferris wheel right in front of the Grand Pavilion, though, I don't know, it's just weird. I wish you had like a clear view of it, and you didn't have the Ferris wheel blocking it unless you got right up to the Grand Pavilion, which I sort of get it. You want to walk right up to the Grand Pavilion and actually go in it. I didn't go in it because I didn't eat anything here on this past visit, but it looks like a pretty okay place to eat food. Now, the rides in this area are pretty decent. You've got Gatekeeper, which is the headliner here for most people. I think it's a fun ride. It's got okay forces. It's definitely not as forceful as Wild Eagle, in my opinion. It's a fun ride, solid 6 out of 10, like I said, but it's more about the visuals and giving the park like a huge standout entrance. Now, Wild Mouse. This is the best coaster in the area, in my opinion. I only got one ride on it, but oh my god, I have never spun that much on any other coaster in my life. That was just bonkers how much I spun. You got good laterals and positive G's around it, and that was just amplified by 10 by how much I was spinning. I could not spin more than that on a teacup ride if I wanted to. It was just one of the most berserk spinning experiences ever, which was really cool. You've also got a couple flat rides, which I won't really mention any of the flat rides because, frankly, I wouldn't waste my time with any of them. Skyhawk in the back of the park is probably the most notable one, but even that's a normal scream and swing. Like, I definitely wouldn't waste my time with any flat rides. If you have time to do flat rides, you have time to get re-rides on the best coasters, that's what I'll say. There's also 2 kids areas by the boardwalk, being Kitty Kingdom and Planet Snoopy. These 2 areas, they're fine. I think Planet Snoopy actually looks a bit nicer than some people said, but Kitty Kingdom, yeah, gut it. Get rid of it. Do something else, I don't even care. Put a Super Loop in its place, that would be better. Obviously, let's hope for something better than a Super Loop, but you get the point. It's not good. So let's head over to the other side of this front part of the park, where you got Raptor, Blue Streak, and Valraven. Raptor's sort of on its own. The entrance is to the left of the main midway, and it stretches back a good deal. You have to take this long walk back to the main midway to get out of it. Raptor is definitely my 3rd favorite B&M invert, and it's definitely a must-do when you're here. So then you've got Blue Streak and Valraven, which are sort of on this little U-shaped pathway. You go through it, and you hit Blue Streak first, and the entrance to this is very on its own. You sort of have to turn left when you go down this straightaway. It's really tucked in the corner, which is part of why it never has a line. But it's an alright wooden coaster. I was hoping for better. And then Valraven. This thing's so dumb. This is such a nothing ride. This is the definition of a 5 out of 10 coaster. Just really plain Jane. Goes through the motions. It's big, and that's about it. It's pretty cool, I guess, for the GP, but for an enthusiast, it's a pretty average, pretty forceless ride. This whole area is just more or less about having Raptor surrounding you and Valraven as well. And I'll also say, if you stand at a certain angle on the main midway, Valraven actually spells out Ohio. I never learned this until this visit when my friend pointed it out, but yeah, that's a cool little Easter egg there. So yeah, at this point, you can either go right or left. And I'm going to go left because I'm going to save best for last, you know? So you're going to turn left, you're going to see this little coaster diner. I don't remember any of the food being particularly good when I ate here in 2016, but weirdly enough, both my visits in 2021 and my visit here in 2024, I got nothing to eat. I just made my way through the day without eating anything, which is more or less what I do at all parks at this point. But yeah, anyways, you got Iron Dragon directly to the right of you. It's one of the few rides I haven't done since 2016 here, and it's because it's just pretty dumb and uneventful. You got Rougarou straight ahead, which is a pretty good ride. I find it a little underrated. I definitely like it more than Valraven, so number 3 B&M in the park. And then you cross the train tracks and get to Millennium Force, which a lot of people still insist this is one of the greatest coasters of all time when it's barely in my top 50. It's my number 47 overall right now, and just, yeah, it's a fun ride. I like it, obviously. It's like an 8 out of 10. It's got good speed, it's got a few moments of floater, but it's just nothing special. This is definitely the worst Giga coaster in my opinion. And I'll say, when I went during Haunt in 2021, this walk back from Millennium Force to Maverick was pretty cool, because it had a scare zone in it, which had some good actors. That was pretty fun. But during my summer visit here in 2024, it was just a ghost town. The only saving grace of this is you have Millennium Force flying over you, which is pretty cool. But this is a real dead zone right now, and they really need to do something about this, because the only real attraction here is the petting zoo. And I mean, it's pretty uneventful unless a camel or goat escapes, which in that case, then yeah, I'd definitely love to be in this area. But unless that happens, it's really uneventful. And now you're in Frontier Town. Congratulations, you're in the back of the park with all the good rides. So the first ride that you encounter is Maverick, and it looks phenomenal from this angle. You just got it shooting out over the water. It's just such a cool ride to watch. And then to the right of you when you're walking on this pathway, you got Snake River Falls, or at least you used to, because now it's removed, and I predict a Gravity Group Woody to replace it. A full-scale one, not a family one. Please actually give us a thrill coaster for once. But yeah, I think it just makes too much sense with all the retracking they've been doing for Cedar Fair. It just, yeah, it's too perfect. I think it's going to be a really good ride. Probably top 4, top 3, top 2 even in the park. I don't even know. But yeah, it could be really good. And then you actually get to the rides, and you've got the number 3 and number 2 coaster in the park here. And if you know me, you know Steel Vengeance is number 3 in the park for me. I am one of the people that thinks this ride is extremely overrated. It's got good airtime. It's got a lot of it. Obviously, that's this whole ride's thing, is that it's got the most airtime out of any coaster in the world. But it's not really quality airtime. It's more floatery in a lot of sections. There's definitely some ejector. There's some definitely good moments on here, but it's just not one of the best coasters in the world. It's definitely not even top 25 in the world. It's not my top 10. I like rides like Lightning Rod more than it, for sure. Yeah, it's just not it. It is not even close to deserving of the best coaster in the world. However, I wouldn't blame you if you had Maverick as your number 1. I have it as my number 8 overall right now, and obviously that's not even close to 1. But this ride has more variety than any other coaster I've experienced. So if you purely want variety, I guess I could accept Maverick as your number 1 overall, because it's definitely got it. This ride has everything you could want in the coaster, and it does it all really well too. And Frontier Town is honestly the best looking part of the park in my opinion. I love how this place looks. It looks honestly sort of straight out of Dollywood. The theming is amazing in here, all the buildings and everything, especially leading up to Maverick and Steel Vengeance. I already talked about how cool Maverick looks. It's also got some theming on ride too. You fly in and out of some rock work. The tunnel before the launch is amazing. You got these like railroad crossing sounds. It's a really well themed ride. So anyways, you're going to get out of Frontier Town and head into Gemini Midway, where you'll find one of, if not the most underrated coaster I've ever ridden, being Gemini itself. Oh my god, this ride shocked me so much. This ride is basically the Runaway Mine Train Death Hill over and over again. It is just one of the most fun experiences ever. Just getting chucked out of your seat really violently all those times. It's such a fun ride with the dueling aspect too. Definitely get a ride or two on Gemini when you're here. It's the 4th best coaster in the park. I'm sorry, it's better than Millennium Force. You've also got Camp Snoopy in this area, which, I mean, it's a fun little kids area, nothing too bad. You got Pipe Scream, a couple other flats. This area itself, again, sort of has that Americana vibe, but definitely better than the boardwalk because, Gemini just looks really cool. And now we've finally reached, by far the best ride in the park, my number 2 coaster overall, Magnum XL 200. Go watch my 29-minute review if you want to hear everything about this masterpiece. But yeah, there should just be way more janky pieces of trash like this on the planet. These transitions should not exist. These almost Air Force One level airtime moments that genuinely make you feel like you're gonna die should not exist. But I'm so happy they do, because this is just one of the greatest creations on the planet by far. I get how this ride could be too aggressive for some people, but for me, it's just one of the greatest creations of all time. And of course, I also mentioned this in the Magnum review, it's got an amazing station soundtrack. I listen to this all the time on Spotify, and a lot of the coasters here have really good station or plaza music. Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, Top Thrill 2, they've all got it, and it's really good. Magnum's is, of course, the best, but all the others are really cool too, so that definitely adds to it. And then you hit the Top Thrill 2 Plaza. You got Corkscrew in there too, which nobody cares. It's a okay little ride, but Top Thrill 2 is what we care about. And I didn't ever get to ride it, like most people. It's still standing there as a big lawn ornament. And yeah, hopefully it'll open next year. Maybe. I never trusted Zamperla with this project. I know a lot of people were hopeful. I wasn't one of them. And I guess I was right. This is definitely a case where I was right. And Zamperla definitely was not ready for this. But I'm assuming I'd rank this number 4 in the park. So yeah, that completes your loop around Cedar Point. Overall, you can obviously see this park is absolutely stacked to the brim with amazing coasters. From Magnum to Steel Vengeance, Millennium Force, Gemini, just, oh my god. So many coasters you have to ride when you're here. A lot that you're going to want to ride over and over again. However, that might be a challenge for a lot of these, because the one big con with this park is the crowds. And even when I was there on a Thursday, when kids in Ohio were back in school, Maverick was at a 45-minute wait all day. Steel Vengeance was around 20. Same with Millennium Force, Valraven. Like, these were some big waits. And this was on a Thursday when kids were back in school in Ohio. I cannot go to this park on a Saturday in the middle of summer. I haven't done it since 2016, and I will not do it again. At least not without shelling out the money for a Fast Lane Plus, which is sort of necessary if you want to go on a super busy day here. Except for the fact that you have Magnum to ride, and that usually has a very short wait because most people hate how aggressive it is. And for the people like me who actually appreciate a ride like that tries to kill you in the most violent way possible, yeah, it's possible to just sit on that over and over again. I only got 7 rides on it this past visit because it shut down early, which is really sad. So I ended up getting 2 more on Steel Vengeance instead. So a little consolation prize there. But I will say, these lines are not because of the ops. These ops are amazing. They're definitely some of the best out there. They try really hard to get those trains out. Even on a ride like Magnum or Blue Streak that didn't really have a wait that day, they were trying. They all had more than one train. Especially Maverick. That was like running over 6 trains that day, which was crazy. But yeah, I definitely appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is how much room they give here. You can usually only get a couple inches of room on these rides. These are not fun spot ops, which I guess that's better than no room like some parks give. But you'll never get minimum verify here. So overall, Cedar Point's just one of the best parks in the world, absolutely. It's definitely getting a 10 out of 10 for me. This is my number 2 park overall. And you might be wondering what could be better than this magical place. It's an even more magical place called Fun Spot Atlanta. I'll definitely do a separate review on that park at some point, but I've already talked about that park a ton on this channel, and you guys know why. It's because you can just ride Air Force One all day with no wait, which automatically makes it better than any other park, but this is definitely a close second. This is definitely my number 2 park overall. and it's definitely somewhere you have to get out to if you haven't visited, because you're truly missing out on the best coaster collection in the world if you haven't been here. So let me know what you guys think of Cedar Point down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.